big concern in the short term is the severe weather threat for Monday. In fact, the setup for potentially widespread severe weather continues to look quite favorable, with the Storm Prediction Center now placing much of the forecast area roughly near and northwest of the I-95 corridor in the enhanced risk for severe weather. At the surface, deepening low pressure will be moving northeastward through the lower Great Lakes through the course of Monday. This will push an associated cold front eastward into the area during the afternoon hours. Meanwhile, the upper level support will also be quite strong, with a potent upper level trough pivoting through and becoming negatively tilted with time. Unlike many convective events where the mid-Atlantic only gets a glancing blow from the best forcing aloft, in this case the strongest forcing looks to move right through the area, with impressive height falls being forecast. Expect showers and storms to move in from the west to east after 4 p.m. as the cold front approaches. Cape values look to be around 1,000 to 1,500 joules per kilogram, with deep layers shear around 40 knots, so this would easily support severe weather. Lapse rates are also forecast to be fairly healthy at around 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. Given the linear forcing and that there should not be much of a mean flow component off the cold frontal boundary, the predominant convective mode should be linear. The main line should begin moving in near or shortly after 18Z, or roughly 2 p.m., but it should be noted that there are some indications we could have cells developing ahead of the main line over Delmarva into the southern New Jersey area associated with convergence due to sea breezes. The main time frame for the storms to move across the area looks to be around 2 p.m. to 9 p.m., with storms clearing the coast by around mid-evening or so. In terms of severe weather threat, biggest threat looks to be strong damaging winds, but large hail can't be ruled out as well. As for any tornado threat, it's concerning that looking at the latest NAM photographs, they are showing strong turning of the winds in the lowest levels. If this were to verify, an isolated tornado too would be possible. However, other models such as the GFS and RAP don't look quite as good, so confidence on this aspect is relatively low at this time. This will certainly have to be watched very closely, and one thing to keep in mind is these very strongly forced scenarios can sometimes result in stronger low-level veering of the winds than forecast by guidance. Okay, so let's get into the convective outlook for Monday, May 16th, 2022. There's an enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms from northern Virginia into New York. Scattered severe storms are expected Monday from central New York, western New England, southward into the Carolinas. Damaging wind, hail, and a few tornadoes will be possible through about 0Z. So that's going to be 8 p.m. A shortwave trough will move quickly from the Ohio Valley toward the mid-Atlantic during the day, taking on a negative tilt across New England after about 8 p.m. Deep layer wind fields will strengthen with this trough, with substantial large-scale ascent from Virginia into New York. The surface trough will deepen as it moves into eastern New York and Pennsylvania, with dew points holding near 60 within the zone of convergence. Farther south, the main cold front will push through and occur from Maryland into Virginia, coincident with a mid-level dry slot. Here, the dew points will be around 65 degrees, and that'll be more common, with a plume of steep, low-level lapse rates emanating out from the southwest. So for the northeast and mid-Atlantic into the Carolinas, thunderstorms will likely be ongoing Monday morning from western PA into West Virginia along the developing cold front, and convection inhibition will likely be removed by about 11 a.m. due to cool 700 millibar temperatures. Storms are expected to become severe between around 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. as they develop into south central New York, central Pennsylvania, and toward far northern Virginia. Mid-level Cape is expected to be average around 1,000 to 1,500 joules per kilogram, with effective deep layer shear of 40 to 50 knots. Mixed storm modes may occur, including supercells and QLCSs. Damaging wind gusts will be most likely. The tornado threat is expected to increase during the late afternoon as the surface low trough deepens. Low-level lapse rates are maximized, and effective storm relative helicity increases to around 200 meters per second squared. Cool temperatures aloft and elongated photographs will also favor sporadic hail in the stronger cells. Although shear will be weaker farther south into the Carolinas, strong heating and plentiful moisture will result in 2,000 joules per kilogram, most unstable Cape, with sufficient westerly shear to support multi-cells with wind and hail threat. A few cells may linger towards 8 p.m. to around 1 a.m. Okay, and looking at the 3-kilometer NAM model for Monday, we can start seeing So vorticity rolling in from central Pennsylvania, and it's going to push straight up through New York into Vermont, Maine, but also going down to south into Virginia, North Carolina area. The main area of concern is going to start rolling in for the Pennsylvania region, especially starting right around noontime. And this is composite reflectivity based on the model data. And it's going to push in around noon is when the kickoff begins. And you can see those red, orange, yellows, they're all starting to form between 12 and 3 p.m. If we start zooming in central New York, central western New York around Ithaca, that's when the major formations start beginning. You also start seeing that around State College, Pennsylvania, up by Scranton, and then down into the Maryland area. That's around 3 p.m. As we push forward, when the cold front starts pushing through, and we start getting the interaction between that low-level warm air advection coming from the south, mixing with the cold air coming in from the west, that's when the real thunderstorms begin. And we start seeing discrete supercell formations, especially over central New York by Catskills, up again to Utica. And then all throughout New Jersey, you're going to start seeing discrete supercells forming. And then basically around, it's going to be, I do see a dividing line. So there's going to be two areas right up here from like Middlesex County north. You'll have rotating supercells here. And then you're also going to have rotating supercells probably from the Philadelphia line and southwest, going into Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, affecting Washington, D.C. This would be around 5 p.m. based on the NAM model data. And that'll push through basically until 8 p.m. And that's when we could see QLCS storm mode start getting activated in more linear mode around 6 p.m. Again, this will primarily be a wind event, but there is low-level vorticity that's going to be going on in the lowest atmosphere. So around the 1 kilometer mark, you should see strong southerly wind ingesting into the cold air, advancing from the west into the east. So we will be taking a look at the severe weather outlooks for the Northeast. As you can see, looking at day one, there's an enhanced risk for about 4.5 million people, infecting Tulsa, Oklahoma, Little Rock, Arkansas, Broken Arrow, even a slight risk area that includes almost 15 million people affected. And that again is in the Tennessee, Oklahoma, Indiana regions. Now, the reason why you're seeing such a major outlook issued for Monday is because you're dealing with the Northeast. And the Northeast, in the enhanced risk area alone, you're dealing with 27 million people in Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Arlington, Syracuse, New York. Then even just in the slight risk area is another 31 million people affected for New York City, Virginia Beach, Raleigh, North Carolina, Newark, New Jersey, Norfolk, Virginia, 34 million in the marginal areas. So anytime you see storms affecting the Northeast, Eastern Seaboard, you're talking easily 25 million, 31 million, 35 million. It's a big number of people affected. That's why you see those risk categories really ramp up when there's anybody potentially affected on the Northeast. Just looking at the dew points right now with the NAM 3 kilometer model, we are looking at dew points right around 65 degrees. And this is as of Sunday, 9 a.m. As we start moving this forward, we can start seeing the dew point levels actually are starting to rise relatively steeply, right in that long area of enhanced risk. And that's going up to around 70. And we can see certainly in the Maryland area, we're right at 70, 70 in Virginia. And if those 70s do push in, the farther they push in actually, the more significant the risk for severe weather happens. As we start moving into Monday, we're still looking at decent dew point values. So we're looking at mid 60s in New Jersey, especially 65 into New York, 60s below us in Virginia. So the area is primed for severe weather. And those are again the early morning values. As we move into the afternoon, now we're talking about a primed atmosphere. So we're talking about 70s Central Jersey into Philadelphia, same thing, 70, right around there, 71, and down into Virginia, 73. So we have some 70 dew point values, even all the way up into New York. Not as high. That won't matter much though, because the atmosphere overall is still primed. By 6 p.m., we start seeing the overturning. Once the convective activity starts, it'll start pushing the dew points way down, and that's when storms come through. And by 11 p.m., it's game over. Dew points drop into the 50s.